I'll start the meeting. You just let me know when I'm good to go, Craig.
You're good to go.
Okay. Thank you. I'd just like to welcome everybody to the meeting today. And just like to let everybody know that it's being recorded. The apologies we have from Councillor Ewan and leave of absence from Alderman Sexton. Could I perhaps have a motion to co-opt Councillor Coates to the committee? Is that okay? Can I have somebody move that? Thank you.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Any dissent on that? No? Great. Thank you very much. Can I please have somebody to move the confirmation of the minutes, please? Councillor Dutta, thank you. Moved. Have any dissent on that? No? Carried. Thank you very much. Item number 3 is consideration of supplementary items. We have a supplementary item, just one.
Yep.
And can I have somebody move that we...
Happy to move.
Thank you very much. We'll put it at 6.5 if that's okay for everybody. Any dissent on that? No? Great. Thank you very much. Carried unanimously. Point number 4, item number 4, indications of pecuniary and conflicts of interest. Are there any? Being none, we'll move on to item number 5, transfer of agenda items. Would anybody like to transfer any agenda items? No, being none, we'll move on to item number 6, reports 6.1, which is the community inclusion and equity framework. And before I have somebody move the motion, perhaps I'll ask the director to, someone from his team to give us a little bit of some introductory comments about the item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Committee will recall and Council will recall we had a workshop on this item before Christmas, which was to present to you for the first time an early draft of the inclusion and equity framework. So just to remind you, the framework for this area of our work, Council adopted a social inclusion policy back in September last year. This is then the next document that slips in under that. This is the framework which provides as it says, a broad framework for our work in this area, a guiding document. It's intended to have a life of about 5 years, give or take. And then you will have noticed in the report, looking at page 11, just from a map or a hierarchy point of view, under this framework, we will then have a number of specific commitments in key areas, and that will actually map out the exact projects and activities that the team will undertake. And the idea of those commitments is that they are much shorter, much more condensed documents and have a life of, say, up to 2 years. So they're designed to be much more agile and for us to be able to respond to community needs much more quickly. I guess if you think about, at the moment, at one end of the spectrum, we have the Aboriginal Commitment and Action Plan, which is quite a detailed commitment. Necessarily so. At the other end, we have the safety commitment, which I think is about a 2-page document from memory. And so the rest of these commitments will fit somewhere within that spectrum, depending on the complexity of the issues they address. And so I would point out to you specifically the affordable housing and homelessness commitment we will deal with out to the side of this process in terms of working through committee and council, because again, it's a very detailed document and will be deserving of separate consideration from committee and council as we go forward. So what is being asked of you tonight is to approve the draft framework for broad community consultation. And then the plan will be, while that document is out for broad consultation, the team will work on the remainder of the commitments that we have listed here in this report. And then at the conclusion of the consultation period on the framework, our aim will be to bring back to committee the completed framework and the remainder of the commitments, excluding the affordable housing commitment, for your final endorsement. And again, just to remind committee chair, The document has already been through some specific engagement in terms of industry stakeholders, and you can see there, if you look at page 14 of the report, we're quite specific there in the consultation engagement that has already undertaken in getting this one to you tonight, which of course includes yourselves, pre-Christmas, council staff, but most importantly, our community sector reference group and the community network and advisory groups that my team work with quite regularly. And as a result of that consultation, some really key themes emerged, which I think as elected members you should be quite proud of. The first one being that there's a clear acknowledgement that the community wants to see the council as a leader in this space and looks to the council as being a leader in this space. And very much this idea that we can coordinate and bring the players together to allow the conversation in this area to take place. And one of the things that I've learned and that Kimber and Sophie have taught me is that that's a very key role that this council can play, particularly in the community sector. And without that role undertaken by council, we can end up with a lot of things going off in different directions and groups doing different activities and not communicating with each other. I think too, if I could just draw your attention to specifically the feedback has led us to look to have an LGBTQI+ commitment in its own right. So rather than have it embedded in one of the other commitments, the feedback we received was the community would like to see a specific commitment around this area. So I think, Chair, they would be the key points in terms of introducing the item. I'm very happy to commend the framework to committee and we're really happy to take any questions.
Great, wonderful. Thank you very much. Can I have somebody move the motion and then I'll open it for discussion? Councillor Harvey, thank you very much. And just open it up for discussion. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Thanks, Chair. I'm very happy for this to go out to community consultation or community engagement. I haven't read it thoroughly yet, but I've got another week to continue looking at it. So I'll have a better understanding by next Monday. But for our purposes here today, I'm happy to see it go to council with a recommendation that we put it out for public consultation.
Great, thank you very much. Any further comments? Yeah, Councillor Dutta, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Dutta, you'd have to unmute yourself.
So sorry, I forgot this whole process. Thought I was in the council. I have a question with regards to your Say Hobart. Gathering information via that mode of communication or methodology, is that effective means of collecting data?
Yeah, I might ask Kimber to answer that, Councillor Dutta.
Through you, Chair. It is only one mechanism. So as a mechanism for a broad engagement, it does work quite well. The community engagement team have built up a large number of people that are registered to receive emails regarding your say. And what we will also do, we will supplement that through our own engagement, through our networks as well. So at the moment, we've done sector engagement with the community sector reference group and our own reference groups. We also have a very broad range of other networks that spread out through the whole community. So, you know, your say will be one kind of online engagement, but we're very aware that we need to go much broader than that, and that will also be part of the broader engagement.
And just a follow-up question, Chair, through you, with regards to trying to, as it were, I read in the report, wanting to connect with everyone in the city, as it were, who are residents. When you have groups, I find that sometimes it's just the leaders who bring their particular perspective or that particular organization. What about those who are not in that network, who are outside that circle?
No, we certainly agree. We do tend to get, you know, the squeaky wheels and the leaders that provide feedback. Quite a few of our networks that we work with We encourage to go out to the actual members as well. Sometimes we don't have control over that, but we do things such as, like, we use our What's On Positive Ageing platform, which goes out to 1,000 individual people, and we use our youth networks that actually goes out and engages individually with their members. So as much as we can't always guarantee it, but we do try and make sure we reach not just the leaders of those communities, but get it dispersed through community members.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very encouraging. And the final question, if I may, or should I wait? Give the opportunity to the others before I ask the third one. Thank you.
Yes, sure. Thank you. No worries. Yes, Councillor Coates.
Thank you, Chair. Look, probably through you, Chair. I guess I just the attachment A, the draft report was going out. It looks really good. I guess the question I have, though, is, if we're looking to go out to community consultation on this and then take it forward, I guess I don't sort of think we're now living in a new norm. And I just know thought process around if you consultation, you might look at some of these groups and saying, look, now that we're in the age of a pandemic, there's people cut off from interstate family, friends. Who knows if there's going to be more outbreaks, and we've got this sort of epidemic of jobs on hold, loneliness, health issues, that sort of thing. If that was going to be touched on at all in this, or sort of keep it as is. I know that question might be rounding. What I'm trying to say is, if we're putting this report forward for the next few years, there's nothing in this in regards to the world we're now living in.
Through you, Chair, the whole ethos behind the community inclusion and equity is about trying to kind of engage the whole community and be able to respond to things such as pandemics, build resilience, safety of community, participation, like all the areas within the framework are all about that, and being able to respond and building resilience. The next level, so in this actual document, we don't talk about the specific ways that we do or specific projects that will be included in the commitment side of it. But what we've done in here gives us the ability to be flexible, and the new word of agile, and be able to respond to things that come across our remit within this document, having a policy setting that sits behind us and a framework that kind of does address all those issues. So we're fairly confident that through this document we will have the ability to respond and provide a response to community as we go forward.
But I think too, through you, Chair, I would suspect it'll be interesting to see how the community feels about that as well. So one of the good things about going out to consultation at this stage is, if we also get that feedback through the community, then, yeah, as Kimbra has said, we're in a great space to be able to take that on board and deal with it.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Dutta, did you want to ask your final question? Is he left? Oh, yep.
Shut the door. One of my employees just left. So sorry. My apologies. Yeah, and the final question that I had was in regards to the fact that in the report it talks about priorities, it talks about the action and some of the goals that you would achieve. Looking back at that last document, did we manage to achieve most of the things we wanted to achieve?
Yes, through your Chair, we were very, very confident that we did achieve the majority of the actions. So the previous document, the strategy, had an annual action plan, and the actions included in the action plan were kind of gathered from across council unit plans. And we would do each year, the document was a 5-year document, we would do each year a report back on all of those actions to community and through the community sector reference group to kind of gather an understanding of what we had achieved and what we had still to achieve. Some of the actions were higher level aims that weren't going to be achieved in an annual plan, but a lot of the actual actions that had specific goals with them, we certainly did achieve. So we're very comfortable that the document was achieved as much as possible.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, if there aren't any further comments, I'd just like to once again say congratulations to the team. You've done an absolutely fabulous job, and it does look really great, the framework and just the ethos, as you mentioned, behind it is just really great, and the values that sort of marinates through it is very nice. So well done. So I also noticed that Councillor Coates has perhaps his internet was a bit dodgy, but we still have a quorum, so we'll just vote on the item. So it's been moved by Councillor Harvey, and I'll just ask, is there any dissent on this item? Okay, being none, that's carried unanimously. And now we'll move on to item 6.2, which is in-kind support for the arts sector. And once again, before I ask somebody to move the item, oh, he's back. Hi, Councillor Coates. Sorry, we just voted on that last item.
That's fine. I'm up at the St Helens Caravan Park.
Okay.
I'm doing something tomorrow. So the internet here is not great. It just dropped.
No worries. Thanks for coming back.
I was going to vote in favour. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So yeah, before we move the next item 6.2, I'll just ask the director to give us some introductory remarks. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Look, this is, I guess, one that has come to our attention as a result of COVID. I think it's reasonably well known that the arts sector particularly has struggled. And, you know, I think we're still seeing that through articles that we read in the media online and with TV news, that performances and painters and I guess, you know, across the arts sector are still really struggling because of limitations, in this case, around venues and places to perform and exhibit. So nothing's happening. So what, I guess, again, this is an idea that's come from the team, which I felt was worthy of coming to you for consideration. And so really what we're suggesting is quite simple, that often the non-community rate for the hire of our facilities can be a deterrent for the arts sector, but generally they would have to pay the non-community rate because often the events that they put on, if it's a concert at City Hall or maybe it's an art exhibition at Waterside Pavilion, usually they would have some kind of entry fee or business transaction as part of that. And as you well know from a recent debate we had at Finance Committee, then normally that would invoke the non-community hire rate. I think what we're seeing though through our networks is therefore no hiring is taking place because the artists involved just can't afford to do that. So what we're proposing to you is just for the remainder of this financial year, and then we could review it after June 30, is let's have a blanket approach for the arts sector. That they would have the community rate available to them for the hire of these facilities, and that the difference between the non-community rate and the community rate would be then noted in the annual report as a benefit to that particular group or individual, as is our standard practice. I don't believe this is seeing the council out of pocket because, to the best of our knowledge, these are, as I said, these are hires that are not actually happening anyway. So we're not giving away money from that perspective. We're actually hopefully providing an incentive to see better use of our facilities in this time. And so you'll see in the report, particularly in the attachments, we've given you some ideas of what the difference between the community and the non-community rate is at attachment A. And attachment B is actually some real examples. The names were changed. I don't think there is a band called Janice Hoblin in Hobart. But they are real examples that have come to us, but we have changed the names to protect the identities of those involved. But look, I think it's a reasonably straightforward idea, but I'll be very interested to hear what committee thinks.
Thank you very much, Director. Can I have somebody move that, please? Councillor Dutta, thank you very much. And then we'll put it for some comments. So Councillor Dutta, did you have some comments?
Yeah, yes, thank you. I would like to congratulate the team for bringing this up. I think it's a fantastic idea. And while, you know, restaurants and cafes have suffered and we have had support, I think arts area needs this kind of support. And I think it is highly commendable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, look, same, Chair. I'm really pleased to see this come to council. The arts have struggled over the last year. Well, the arts always struggles, but the last year has been particularly devastating, I think, for the arts. So to offer this incentive or this discounted rate, the community rate, rather than the normal rate, I think is a really terrific show of our support for the arts in Hobart. And as the director said, it won't be foregoing any money because we'll be renting, hopefully, the spaces when they're available and be collecting an income from it. It just won't be the full rate. It'll be the community rental rate. And I think that's fantastic. So I'm very pleased. So thank you very much for bringing this to the council.
Yes, Councillor Coates.
Yeah, look, reiterate the comment. I think the director hit the nail on the head when speaking to the item when he said, look, this isn't actually coming at a cost because they're currently not getting rented out. You know, it's a different ballgame if we're dealing with an asset that's constantly booked out. You know, in one way, it's purely an accounting trick. You know, we're saying, oh, nominally this is worth 5,000, but we're giving it to you for half price. And I mean, in a way, it's a win-win. They get the bonus of being listed in the annual report. We look like we're really generous, but in reality, we haven't given them money. And similar to that boxing event we spoke about at Finance and Governance Committee, you know, there are extra costs involved with running events like this. They need to take details of who's coming in. They need, you know, have to recoup some costs. So often, I suspect you'll find they might be charging a ticketed price, but that's not necessarily to make a profit. That's just to cover their costs. So look, I think this, you know, as you said, it goes to the end of a financial year. We can always reassess then. If at these rates we've found that every facility is always booked, we might come back and decide, well, let's up the rate a bit or narrow the criteria of who is eligible. But, you know, I commend you. I think this is a really smart suggestion, and let's hope that ultimately people use the facilities.
Thank you.
Yes, wonderful. Well done. I totally agree with all the comments that have been made by each and every one of you. And again, I commend the team as well. So that's been moved by Councillor Dutta, and I'll just ask if there's any dissent on that particular item. Being none, I consider that carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to item 6.3. The application is approved under the delegated authority of the General Manager for September 2020 biannual grant round. And can I have somebody to
Moved.
Thank you very much. Received and noted. Any dissent? None? Being none, we'll move on to item 6.4, applications approved under the delegated authority of the Deputy General Manager for quick response grants. Can I have somebody move that it's received and noted, please? Councillor Dutta, thank you very much. Any dissent on that particular item? No, being none, I'll consider that carried unanimously. And now we'll go on to the supplementary item of 6.4, which is the Local Government Association of Tasmania General Meeting motions. And is everybody okay to take those two items together and vote on them together? Yep. Okay. And perhaps before we do have the have somebody to move that motion, Director, if you wouldn't mind just giving us some background on that, please.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I think that they're reasonably self-explanatory. This is a process that comes before the council once or twice a year, depending on when the Legat general meeting is. And we always have a process that when a council has submitted a motion to Legat, then it comes to the appropriate committee here for elected members to have a view on, so that when the Lord Mayor or the delegate goes along to the meeting, they know how to vote. You will have noticed from the attachment, there's actually a third motion, and that will be going to the planning committee on Monday night, if any elected members were wondering what had happened to that. But in essence, we have two motions here from Glenorchy, both related to the gambling legislation that is before the government at the moment. Clearly, the first one is really just wanting the state government to stick to a 5-week consultation period. And the second motion is really asking the government before it does anything to make sure that it's got all the data that it needs from those, particularly from those 2 studies that are listed in the motion. So I think as staff, without particularly having a view about gambling one way or the other, they're sensible motions in terms of process. And so the staff were quite happy to recommend to committee that these be supported.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any, can I have somebody move that motion actually first? Thank you, Councillor Dutta. Was there any comments, any discussion? No, okay, being none, we'll vote on that now. Is there any dissent on that item? No, being none, I'll consider that carried unanimously and move on to item number 7, Committee Action Status Report, 7.1, Committee Actions Status Report. If I could have somebody move that, please. Councillor Harvey, thank you very much. Any dissent on that item? No. Being none, I'll consider that carried unanimously as well. Any questions without notice? Item number 8. No, being none, we'll move on to item number 9, which is the closed portion of the meeting. Can I just have somebody move that, please? To close the open and open the close. Thank you, Councillor Coates. Great.